Hey guys, and welcome to another video. So today I'm going to be reviewing Tactical Revival by Jessica Ashley. It's the fourth book in the Coastal Hope series. So if you guys have watched my channel for any number of time, you guys are probably watching this in 2025. It's November 27th, and I've basically binge read this series this month, November 2024, reviewing them as soon as I finish the books. But I've got basically all of the Mondays on my YouTube channel. I have a video coming out, so I won't be able to release these till next year. But either way, if you've been watching for any number of time, you've seen my previous reviews for all the other books. I'll have them here. So yeah, so by now I am familiar with the series. I'm familiar with Jessica Ashley and her writing style and all that stuff. So at this point, I don't know if it's the genre or just reading the same series, but it's kind of like I'm familiar with her patterns, so I have a lot more critiques, I guess, even though the weird thing is, for me, in my opinion, the books have been getting better and better. So book one was kind of like, in hindsight, I would probably rate it 3 stars. And then book 2 would probably be 4 stars. Book 3 would probably be 4 stars as well, and then the last one would probably be 4.5 stars, and I would say this one is 4.5 stars for me. It's between 4 stars and 4.5 stars for me. So basically the last book was about a character named Michael and his girl Raina, and it was a second chance romance where he had broke her heart in high school, so he's trying to earn her forgiveness and stuff, and I really enjoyed it. I felt like it wasn't quite a 5-star read for me, but it was really close. It was like 4.75 stars, I think, is what my technical rating is, but my official rating is, but you know, I can't actually do that in most of the platforms. So Michael's sister is Margot, and she owns the B&B in town, and the LAPD cop that they work with throughout the series has been staying there because he moved in one of the books, either book 3 or 4. No, this is book 4. Either book 2 or 3. One of those. So he moved in there, so he's been staying with her. Her husband left her and her 13-year-old son, so she's going through like a divorce right now. And then Jackson is the NYPD, the LAPD guy. So this book is about them. So for me, the characters in this one were even better. While the previous books are all about another guy, like the 3 main guys is Lance, Elijah, and then Michael. So we knew the guys, like Elijah and Michael have both been side characters in all 3 books. Jackson has been as well. Usually the woman is introduced for the first time in that guy's book. So like Raina, we kind of knew about her, but she wasn't really too important, and we didn't really have any interactions with her until, you know, the last book, which was Second Chance Serenity. But for this one, it's like we're very familiar with Jackson. We're very familiar with Margot. She was the sister of the last main character. So for me, I cared about these characters, Margot and Jackson, a lot more than the previous ones. And I love Michael and I love Raina. They were my favorite couple so far, but I feel like Jackson and Margot are even stronger. And so Jackson comes from a divorce. Margot comes from a divorce, so they're both divorced, and on top of that, Jackson's parents abandoned him, and some of his interactions with his dad really hit close to home for me, so I related to these characters and I loved them. And on top of that, the suspense stuff is kind of like gets better and better. But the thing is, by now though, I've learned the author and I know the patterns of this series. I don't know if it's just because the genre is meant to be copy and paste, so it's pretty much the same thing, or if it's just me and I'm analytical and I'm an upbeat, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but basically I had a feeling on who the bad guy was going to be pretty much as soon as the person I suspected came into the story, and I called it. I was right. Now there were some like intense moments along the way and I wasn't entirely sure I was right. It was just a suspicion I had. So it was kind of intense, but I felt like this one for me was I don't even know the term for it, but it definitely didn't feel like romantic suspense. It had romance and it had a mystery plot. There wasn't as many suspenseful moments. There was one moment that was pretty intense that like got my attention. That was, oh my gosh, like really? That was really good, that I did like, and it was toward the end, I believe. But for me, it was just like a real slice of life. I don't know if that's what that's called, but it was like bills and can we afford this and can we afford that? And I don't really want to read that. Like, I've written that before. I admit it's a thing. And I do it, people find it appealing. I guess that's not what I'm in the mood for now, because we're struggling financially. So it's like, I want to read something that doesn't reflect that, I guess. So it was kind of boring for me in that aspect. There was a lot of drama though, because you had his divorce and her divorce, and then you had his dad, you had her issues with her son. And then on top of that, like the financial issues, there was an issue with her potentially like losing the B&B and like the finances and stuff. And then the mystery plot line on top of the fact that they both fall for each other because he's living in her B&B, but they're both like, their hearts are broken, so they're not ready to like be in love again. So you had that. So it had a lot going for it, but I just felt like it was just like the suspense. Usually in the past several books, it's been multiple moments where it's like this happens to one or the other. Like it was less intense. Now there were intense moments, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't feel the same, because the one being targeted was actually this other woman that is in love with Jackson that he's not interested in. So Margot was never targeted herself until toward the end, which is another thing that, like, I guess I'm just seeing the pattern or something, because it's like the endings are always, and this isn't even a spoiler to say that it's always the main girl gets the bad guy kidnaps the main girl, and then the bad guy is revealed, who is usually a person that you're not meant to suspect. But for me, the twist has been done once, so therefore I automatically always know who it's going to end up being, because it's the, spoiler alert, it's always a woman that you don't suspect that is the bad guy, and it's not even a man, even though they suspect a man, even though they've had cases like this happen like 4 times in their small town now, so you'd think they would learn. And then the guy rescues the girl just in time, nothing too major happens, everybody lives, everybody ends up happy, it's all tied up with a nice little bow, and that's the pattern, and it's really boring. The last one changed things up because she had a car accident, and it was like, and then the middle part they both got kidnapped together, which kind of helped. But in this one it was like pretty much the same thing. But this one opened up some more issues that I realized. I'm having actually a lot of issues with the Christian aspect a little bit. Not because I disagree with any of it, but for me, it's like everything always ends up perfect. They always pray to God, which is, again, a good thing. But it's like, you know, the estranged ex-husband changes his life, gets rehab, apologizes for what he did wrong, seeks forgiveness. The dad, his dad who abandoned him and abused him, is all of a sudden wanting forgiveness and everything. His ex-wife, so her ex-husband wanted forgiveness, his ex-wife wanted forgiveness, his dad wanted, like, everybody fixes everything. Everybody, like, well, there's one scene where it's like, the one woman is scared, and one of her friends or somebody tells her, like, just pray to God, he's not going to let anything happen to you. And it's like, yes, we should trust in God, and yes, God's got everything and he has a plan, but like sometimes bad things happen, and no, God doesn't always come through in the way that we're expecting or hoping for, and people die, people get hurt, people get sick, people don't actually seek forgiveness. Sometimes, like, I guess it's because, like, my parents were divorced, and I've seen divorce, and I've heard of other people too, and it's like, they don't always, it's not fixed, okay? Even with the exes, and in their case, they stayed divorced, but he just sought forgiveness. He was trying to be a good dad to his son. It's just very irritating that it creates this unrealistic expectation of this little perfect Christianity where everything goes right. But that's a huge misconception, and if you go into Christianity expecting everything to go your way, everything to go right, and to be okay all the time, and everything to always work out at the end, then you're going to be disappointed. And that is why a lot of people do turn from Christianity, because they go in expecting this beautiful, like, it is beautiful, but they expect perfection, everything to always go right all the time, and that's not always the case. You will have trials and tribulations and bad things happen to you in life, and it won't always end up well. People do die, people do hurt you, people do leave you, people don't necessarily reconcile with you. it's a part of life. And I get that some people want to read something and have it be happy and go lucky and everything, but for me, it creates this almost anger in a way. Like, it irritates me, because then that makes me expect, well, God should work everything out perfectly all the time, but that's not always the case. Sometimes he has a different plan, and sometimes he allows us to go through bad things, and sometimes those bad things don't always end up okay right now on earth. We won't know until we get to heaven. But so that's just a bigger issue for me. And the weirder thing for me about this book in particular was that it deals with divorce, and it's never mentioned that typically in Christian circles, or whatever you want to call it, in Christian culture, if you want to call it that, you're not, generally speaking, Christians frown upon, one, they frown upon divorce. Two, you're not supposed to get remarried unless it's like adultery. There's very specific, I haven't actually studied those verses in a long time, so I'm not going to say one way or the other, but I know it's like a few, just like one or two things that is like the exception, but you're technically not supposed, even then, you're not supposed to get remarried. And nobody in this book talks about that, debates about it, acknowledges it, and nobody frowns upon anybody getting divorced in these things. And I know for a fact that when my parents were divorced, my mom in certain Christian circles got a lot of like, people were very rude to her. People saw her very negatively. She was kind of like ostracized, otherized, whatever you want to call it, because people in certain Christian cultures frown upon divorce, and that was reflected badly upon her for whatever reason. And I know of another couple that the guy got divorced and later he remarried, and when he remarried, him and his new wife were not welcome in a particular church. They were kicked out because you're not supposed to get remarried, and it was like they were living in sin. And now I'm not saying one way or the other, I'm keeping my private thoughts to myself about this matter, but what I didn't like was that nobody talked about it. And to me, it wouldn't have mattered if the author had the characters take one stance or another, but nobody had a discussion about it in this book. Nobody in the town, like the whole town is just like, okay with divorce. And I find that very unrealistic. Nobody talked about it. And also nobody talked about the concept of, should we get remarried? Because it is mentioned in the Bible that we're not supposed to. And do you feel guilty about that? Like, the whole question of their relationship was more like, we were hurt. Are we ready to like open up our hearts to the potential of getting hurt again? It wasn't like, oh, are you supposed to get remarried because we're divorced and according to the Bible that's wrong. It was just like completely skipped over. And it only irritated me because it's really unrealistic in Christian circles. And it's just like, that's not how people see divorce. That's not how people see people who have gotten remarried from divorce as well. And it came off as really weird for me. With that being said, yeah, for me, the author's like writing style and everything, there were still editing mistakes. She still needs a better editor. There was one instance where he was referring to his brother, who is named Tyler, and in one of the scenes he called him Brad. There was another scene where it was from his perspective and it's written in first person, so it says I do this, I do that, and in one instance, one sentence changed it to he. So little things like that just need to be fixed that an editor would have caught, a better editor would have caught if she has one. So for me, I don't know, I liked the characters in this one better. I liked the plot line less because of who it was. Like, it set it up to be potentially a really intense plot line, but they didn't go there. And it ended up being a lot less because it was way less than what it was set up to be, if that makes sense. So for me, it was actually disappointing in that aspect. And this one for me really highlighted the Christian issues that I was having with this, where it's too good, too perfect. Everybody always gets reconciled. Everybody always seeks forgiveness. Everybody always wants to change and be better. And that's not always the case. And the divorce thing was a little weird. There was a lot of things about the divorce aspect that they brought in that I related to, and that I've seen and witnessed and all that stuff. So I really liked a lot of that. And she still had some really good lines that really did stand out or speak to me or whatever. But for me, this one kind of really made me realize my issues with the Christian fiction part of this book, is because it's just so unrealistic. And it creates this false picture of what you should expect as a Christian, that, oh, everything's always gonna, like, God's ultimately gonna get the happy ending because he's gonna defeat Satan in the end. But I'm talking here on earth, like, our lives on earth are not always going to end up perfect. And sure, if you want something that's unrealistic and kind of happy and hunky-dory, that's fine. But it also creates this unrealistic expectation, and it's just, I don't know. I don't really like it. But it's, again, I liked the characters in this one better, so I don't really know where I'm going to rate this. I'm probably just going to rate, because all of them have been so far, I think I've kept them even at 4 stars, because I don't want to bump them up to 5 stars on the official rating, because none of them have been 5-star reads for me. But again, and even though it's like, the first one was 4 stars, the second one was 4.5, the third one was 4.75, at my official rating that I did in these videos. So this one, I gotta say, is going to be back down to 4.5, or at least, because for me, the last one, the suspenseful plot line was more better. And I still liked the romance, where in this one, the romance was better, but the suspenseful plot line really dropped a lot compared to the last one. So I don't know if that necessarily makes it even with the last one, because they offset each other, like the characters being better kind of offset the bad suspenseful plot line. So it's between 4.5 and 4.75 stars. Well, the ending was disappointing in this one, so I think I'm going to go back down. It's definitely between 4 stars and 4.5 stars for me. So yeah, I am still going to read the last one, because for me, the last book was the one I was looking forward to reading the most, so I hope it gets better. That's pretty much all I have to say. This has been my review of Tactical Revival by Jessica Ashley. And don't get me wrong, I do love the author. I love the Coastal Hope series, and I love what she's trying to do with the books. And the Christian messaging is still good if you take out the parts I complained about. So I do still encourage you guys to read this book, especially if you enjoy romances, because the romances are still really good. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, so this has been my review for Tactical Revival by Jessica Ashley. Have you read these books? If you did, what do you think? Put them in the comments below. And if you liked this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And in the meantime, if you like my review of Tactical Revival, then check out my review for book 1 in this series, which was Pages of Promise. That's the book that started it all. I give you all of my thoughts, and you can see kind of my reaction when I first was coming into the series and stuff. That's exciting. You don't want to miss it. Check it out. It'll be here.